Good morning again, and once again, thanks so much for joining us. For those who just tuned in, again, I'm Matthew Beatty, Senior Director of Communications at the Miami Foundation, and we are so pleased and glad that you all have joined us for our second My Miami Story Conversations host webinar. We don't anticipate taking up too much of your time, but I just really want to reiterate my appreciation for everyone on this call joining this day of community reflection that we really hope is a meaningful and worthwhile experience for Miami residents and goes beyond just a conversation, but really moves into action. So let's dive right in. So the Miami, the Miami Foundation started My Miami Story Conversations 2 years ago as an effort to kind of get context behind the data points that reflect quality of life in Miami-Dade. We all know about the pains and challenges that we face as a community, and we also know what's working here. We know that traffic can be a hassle and that we lose productivity by sitting in our cars for hours each day. But we also know that Greater Miami is creating jobs at a faster rate than most other major cities in the US. So there's a lot to work on here, but there's also a lot to celebrate. But those numbers only tell part of the story. And the truth is that for each of those data points, there is a resident who is experiencing that issue that provides, whose story has all manner of context as to how that one issue impacts other aspects of our quality of life in Miami-Dade. So for example, if a resident is sitting in the car for 2 hours trying to get home from work downtown, when they do get home, they may be too tired to go to the polls that evening to go vote. So the traffic issue also then impacts the ability for that resident to be civically engaged in their community. And it's all of those stories and narratives behind the issues and behind the data that My Miami Story Conversations seek to extract. So what we're trying to accomplish here is to have these conversations to spark change. And those conversations start by residents simply sharing their Miami story, which is how you got to Miami, why you stay in Miami, what is it that you care about in this community, and then ultimately what each of us can do to improve our life here. About every 2 years, the Miami Foundation produces the Our Miami report, which is a civic indicators report that looks at 60 different data points across 8 different issue areas. And again, all of that data provides a really clear picture of quality of life, but that taken in tandem with the stories that we capture through My Miami Story Conversations allows us to have a more holistic view of what is happening in this community, and most importantly, what each of us can do to improve it. So you, as a host, have taken on that challenge to help us and other stakeholders capture these stories and hopefully enable them to inspire each of us to do more to improve the community that we live in. So let's get into a few of the logistics. Event day will be Tuesday, October 23rd, and hundreds of conversations will take place on that day throughout Miami-Dade County. They will occur everywhere from Homestead through Aventura, all the way out west to Doral and up north to Medley, and of course, including Miami Beach and Key Biscayne, but they can occur at any time throughout the day. It can be a breakfast, lunch, dinner, 3:05 cafecito. It can be any time that you would like. It can be a happy hour. It could be just after your yoga session in the morning with your class. The point is that there is no right or wrong time on that day to host your conversation. We encourage people to provide food and refreshments or to somehow arrange for there to be food and refreshments, but that is certainly not required to host your conversation. Again, even if it's just people gathering over coffee in a workroom, that is enough of an environment to have a substantive and meaningful My Miami Story conversation. We often get questions about how many people to invite to your conversation. We usually recommend about 6 to 10 people. Those people can be friends, colleagues, family, anyone within your network, folks who need to meet, who have never interacted before, that you want to be a connector for. All of those are wonderful options for people to invite to your conversation. If your group is any larger than 6 to 10 people, then we recommend that you split the group into smaller groups and then have each individual group host their own conversation, and then create some time at the end to come back and share thoughts, outcomes, and solutions. Great conversations usually last about an hour to an hour and a half or so. That allows time for there to be 10 to 15 minutes for folks to kind of come in, get settled. We'll talk about the use of the fact cards and how folks can review those as they're settling down into their seats. Then you'll have about an hour to 45 or so minutes for the conversation itself. And then you'll leave about 15 or so minutes for wrap up and the survey, which we'll talk about a little bit later in this presentation. The toolkit and conversation guide will be sent to you via mail from our host relations partner, Sunshine Communications. That toolkit provides a little booklet that has all of the details as to how to set up your conversation, how to invite people to it, how to set up the room, what to do after the conversation, and all of the elements of follow-up that are pertinent to the My Miami Story conversation experience. Inside that toolkit box, you'll have a set of fact cards. And I mentioned the Our Miami report a bit earlier, and these are simple facts from that report. It covers everything from environmental issues to social issues to economic issues. Some examples of facts include that 2015 was the highest recorded sea level in Miami-Dade County in history. It also includes data related to graduation rates, saying that high school graduation rates in Miami-Dade County trail the national average, but are improving. So all of those little facts and data points just get people thinking about their life in Miami and what are the issues that they care about. So we invite you to use these cards however you feel comfortable. You can lay them out on the table, as I mentioned, kind of as people are coming in and they can review them. I have seen hosts that will read off one of the cards to their group and invite the group to react and converse and share thoughts about the fact on that card. Any way that you feel comfortable using them or not using them is completely up to you. The broader point here is that this is an open-ended conversation, and there are no right or wrong answers. It is only imperative that you create an environment where people feel comfortable to share their thoughts and engage in meaningful conversation about their community. Inside your toolkit, you'll also get some fun My Miami Story swag. We've got a couple of wristbands in there for your guests. We'll have a I Told My Miami Story sticker that works similar to the way an I Voted sticker works. And on that day, you'll see people taking selfies with their sticker and sharing that they participated in a conversation. You will also receive our exclusive My Miami Story Conversations t-shirt that asks right there on the front of it, what is your Miami story? It is a great conversation starter. They're in incredibly high demand every year. And simply because you signed up as a host, you will have the privilege of receiving one. So wear it with pride. Next, of course, this day is about in-person conversation and civic discourse, But there is also a much broader conversation happening on our social platforms throughout the entire 24 hours of the 23rd. So we invite people to not just share their story in person, but also share it on their Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, any social platform using the My Miami Story hashtag. Again, people use that hashtag to share insights from their conversation. Some people will take pictures throughout the gathering and share those. Other groups will have discussed an issue and developed a solution that they're going to work on together. So we've seen groups just record a really quick 15 to 20-second video about what they plan to do and what they discussed and what their proposed solution is. And they will record it and share that on each individual participant's Facebook page. So point being is that there is a conversation happening on your social network that we want to make sure that everyone is a part of, because it's wonderful to connect with the people in your conversation, but there's also an opportunity to connect with Miamians engaging in this shared experience across the county. So make sure that you're active on that day using the My Miami Story hashtag. We also have social media graphics and tools and sample tweets and Facebook posts that you can use as a host to both promote your conversation and encourage other people to share their stories and engage using the hashtag. All of that is at mymiamistory.org. Just click on the Host Tools button. Wrapping up your conversation, one of the most important elements of this experience is taking the survey. And this is the only way that we capture what people discussed in their conversations, and more importantly, what the ideas and solutions coming out of that conversation were. We are, through the support of Knight Foundation, are working with a research partner who has produced a survey that asks all manner of questions. It asks about what may be keeping you from being more civically engaged in your community. It asks who are the individuals and organizations and entities that may be driving change in your neighborhood or community around issues that you care about, but that they may not be getting the support and awareness that they need to be even more impactful. All of those insights will be synthesized into a report. This survey will go to every single person who participates in My Miami Story conversation, from hosts to participants. Everyone will get this link, and I'll share a bit more about how that's going to be distributed. But the survey results will be synthesized into a report that the Miami Foundation then takes and reflects back out into the community. So that means that county commissioners, city commissioners, city commissioners, and other stakeholders will be able to review the results and more deeply understand the civic issues that we're facing and understand the nuances around how residents are having to interact and cope with these issues. Every host toolkit will have a little table tent in it that has a text to complete code. The code is very simple. It is simply 797979, and you will text MMS 2018 to that code. That will allow you to get the link to complete the survey right there on your phone. So that is a really easy way that everyone, as soon as the conversation is over, can just text the code to 797979 and complete the survey right then while it's fresh in your mind and the experience is fresh in your mind. The other way that we encourage people to take the survey is by getting guests to register at mymiamistory.org. And this is really on you as a host to encourage them to go and do that, because that enables us to capture their email address and then send them the survey on the day after their conversation. So whether it's registering guests at mymiamistory.org, which they can do even right now ahead of time, or during the conversation right before it starts, or if it's using the text to complete option, please make sure that everyone who participates takes the survey, because that is the only way that all of the solutions and ideas that you talk about and develop in your conversation are shared with the stakeholders that can then do something about it. Of course, this is Miami, so we can't ask you to do anything without giving you a little bit of an incentive. And so everyone who completes the survey, whether they're a host or a guest, will be entered to win an Amazon Echo complete with Alexa. So next year, you'll be able to say, Alexa, go to mymiamistory.org and then set up your registration for My Miami Story 2019. Of course, we have a huge support team ready and willing to help you with whatever you need to make sure that you have a successful gathering. We at the Miami Foundation, myself, Matthew, the communications team here, all of us are available to you, and all of our contact information is available at miamifoundation.org. You can also email mymiamistory@miamifoundation.org with any and every question that you may have, whether it's an issue with receiving your toolkit, or if you have questions once you review the conversation guide. That's not just going into some nether region where no one will check it. Everyone is checking that email account on a daily basis, so we will make sure to get a response to your question in a timely fashion. We're also, again, very privileged to work with Sunshine Communications, led by their CEO, Bernadette Morris, who is gratefully working with us to just be a host liaison and, again, just provide a concierge service to everyone who has signed up to host a conversation. So feel free to reach out to her at the phone number that you see there on your screen, or again, at the My Miami Story at miamifoundation.org email address. The big takeaway here is that, so often in a community, change can be legislated from the top down. And of course, what our city commissioners do and our county commission and our elected leaders and our civic leaders do is important. But what a community looks and feels like, and the future that we want for ourselves, should be just that, what we want as residents of this community. And so this is an important day where we capture the feelings and sentiments and desires of Miami residents. And it's only when everyone participates, from every corner of the county, every neighborhood, every racial group, every ethnic group, every age group, the more diverse the participants are in this experience, the more robust those results of that survey will be, and the more weight we will have when we go to our elected and civic leaders and tell them this is the kind of community that we want to live in. So yes, it's a wonderful day to meet up with friends and perhaps make some new ones, but let's remember that this is an effort to really change Miami. And we'll only do that when we hear the stories and narratives of the people that live here and get their ideas and solutions to create the kind of community that they want to live in. So again, we are so grateful that you have joined us on this experience and throughout this effort. And with that, I'll be happy to open it up and take any questions.
Please be sure to write out or list any questions that you may have, and we will be happy to read them off to Matthew, and he will provide some responses and some feedback. And Matthew, we do have some that I'll start off with and share with you. One person has asked, how many people am I allowed to invite?
Great question. So there is no limit to the number of people that you can invite to participate in your conversation. Again, for each individual table or gathering, we recommend about 6 to 10 people. And that's just so that we ensure that folks have the time to really share their stories and really delve into engaging conversation throughout the experience. If your group is any larger than that, again, we just invite you to split the group into, say, 2 groups of 6 or 2 groups of 5, and then you will be able to have individual conversations for the majority of the time, and then just leave some time at the end for folks to report back and share what they talked about in their individual conversation.
Thank you. We've got a lot more coming now. One has recently just asked that she would like to provide her My Miami story on Wednesday, the 24th, and she's asking, is that okay?
Sure, and we get this question a lot, and we understand that, you know, it is one day, it is a work day, so there are some challenges there. There's all manner of reasons as to why we've chosen a Tuesday. Earlier in the week, we don't have to compete with more events later in the week. On the weekend, it's a bit harder because, say, you want to have a conversation with your coworkers, but then you've got to gather people outside of work on a Saturday. So the truth is that we found that we've had a lot of success by having it on a weekday, but still that comes with challenges. Part of what makes this initiative so meaningful is that it's a shared experience across Miami, meaning that in Miami-Dade County on one day, there are thousands of people doing the exact same thing. And that drives engagement, that drives excitement, that drives participation, which is critical, again, to making sure that this is a meaningful experience for Miamians. So while we, of course, can't stop you from having your conversation on the Wednesday or the Wednesday after the Monday before, we absolutely encourage you to have it on that Tuesday, so that way you are a part of this shared experience throughout Miami-Dade County.
Another question is, when should we expect the packets?
Great. So the first step to ensuring that you receive a host toolkit packet is ensuring that you go to mymiamistory.org and register as a host if you have not yet. If you have, then your host toolkit is forthcoming. Toolkits have been mailed out now for the past week and a half or so, so they're going out in waves. But if you have signed up by today, you will likely receive it either by the end of this week or the very, very beginning of next week. This Friday is the final day to sign up to receive a physical host toolkit. And that includes all the swag we mentioned, like the t-shirt and the wristbands and the stickers. However, if anyone registers or wants to sign up to host a conversation after this Friday, they absolutely can. And all of the fact cards and the conversation guide, all of those are available for download at mymiamistory.org. If you are also having a multilingual conversation, we also right now have the toolkit translated into Spanish and Haitian Creole, as well as the fact cards translated into Spanish and Haitian Creole. Again, all available at mymiamistory.org. Just click on the Host Tools button.
Our next question is, as a resident of South Miami, can we focus our discussion on South Miami, or should we make it more county-wide?
Great question. So it is completely up to you, the scope of your conversation. We do encourage particular neighborhoods. If you are connecting with neighbors or folks that you work with in a particular area, to get hyper-local and to discuss what's happening, you know, in your particular area. But we also encourage folks to speak more broadly about what they are experiencing and what's happening in Miami and what their friends and family may be experiencing living here. So the broader point is that it can be as limited in scope or as broad in scope as you as a host would like it to be, but it's completely up to you.
Okay, and another question is, do you have a YouTube or Vimeo channel to upload videos?
We do have a YouTube channel. If you have video of your conversation, we absolutely welcome you to send it to us. You can send it to mymiamistory@miamifoundation.org, or you can, of course, post it on your social platform and just tag the Miami Foundation, and we'll make sure to share and amplify all of the great multimedia content that our hosts are sharing.
Another question is, do you have specific questions that we should ask as a youth audience?
Another good question. So inside your conversation guide, if you have not received it already, are a few simple prompts that we invite you to use to kind of get the conversation started, or if there's a lull in the conversation, just to kind of get things back going. They're really simple questions like, what is your Miami story? How do you feel about living in Miami? What is the issue that you see in this community that you feel like you want to address or that needs to be addressed the most? But the point is that these questions are broad enough and simple enough that they work for largely youth of all ages. We, of course, invite you as a host to use your discretion as you would like to create your own prompts if you want to have a conversation about a particular topic with you, or to adapt the prompts that are in your conversation guide to be more appropriate for you. All of that is completely up to you. But we do kind of get you started with some suggestions. But again, feel free to take those suggestions and take it in whatever direction you would like.
Another question is it okay to share links to Miami facts in the host toolkit on social media?
Yes. If by Miami facts you mean like links to places where folks can see statistics or data about life in Miami, then absolutely. Or if Miami Facts is an actual website, I just may not be familiar, absolutely, that is perfectly fine. Again, the point is for guests to be able to get their minds going about what's happening in Miami prior to getting to the conversation or when they're walking in and getting settled, and whether it's links that they receive ahead of time, or if it's the fact cards that they start to look at as they walk in, all of that is absolutely helpful in getting them into the mindset to discuss their community.
Righty. And this person has indicated that, okay, it's a long one. Rather than a question, she's looking forward to getting the host package. She did this last year, reached out to her neighbors. She wasn't aware of all the support that's being offered, so thank you for sharing that. And she's looking forward to having effective toolkits. So she just gave some positive feedback.
That's great. Yeah, every year, again, through the generous support of Knight Foundation, we are able to broaden the scope of how we plan and execute this project. Every year we're learning and getting better at making sure that hosts feel supported, that you get the materials you need in a timely fashion, and that we, most importantly, provide you the support that's needed so that you feel confident going in to host your conversation. So if you do have suggestions, once you receive your toolkit or after you have completed your My Miami Story gathering, one, we invite you to share suggestions to us through the survey, and it asks some questions about what your My Miami Story conversation experience was like, or feel free to email us at the mymiamistory@miamifoundation.org email address, and we'll be happy to consider all of your suggestions and how we can improve this experience in the future.
And Matthew, we have one other question, and he is asking, in the facts in the fact cards, do the cards only provide facts on Miami, or do they include all of the metropolitan area?
Really good question. So the facts actually oscillate between the two. So there are some facts that are on a county-wide level that speak about Miami-Dade County as a whole. There are some facts that deal strictly with the city of Miami as our major municipality here in the county. And there's some that deal just more broadly with the greater Miami region. So the point is that those stipulations are on each of the fact cards. So you will be absolutely clear as to whether that fact applies to the county, the city, or greater Miami more broadly as a region.
Alrighty, I think there may just be one other question, and that is, where do I send the photos that I take during my conversation?
Sure. So we certainly invite you to, again, post them on your social platforms and use the hashtag MyMiamiStory, tag the Miami Foundation. We have a Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook account. So we absolutely curate photos and videos from conversations through social networks that we use in promotional materials. And when we talk to potential supporters about this initiative, we share those images and share those experiences with folks. But you can, again, also email them directly to us if you would like at mymiamistory@miamifoundation.org. But again, we really encourage folks to share your content on your social networks, because that, again, will drive the conversation online and really open this up so it's truly a shared experience across Miami-Dade. So if there are no other questions, again, our sincere thanks for coming along with us on this journey. We know that it's a bit tough to explain kind of what is this conversation about and how will this be impactful, but we promise that once you invite your guests into your space and they sit down and they start connecting and they start engaging with each other and discussing their stories and discussing their community, you will be blown away at how meaningful they find the experience and how rewarding it is for you as a host to have been a part of My Miami Story Conversations. So again, we are so grateful to you all, and please continue to send those questions to mymiamistory@miamifoundation.org. Thanks so much, and enjoy the rest of your day.